Hi everyone, my name is Scott. Welcome back to my channel and my series, The Decades of Action Challenge, which was inspired by the Epic Film Challenge. Forker Ball and Razor Wire Reviews have been doing this series. They are looking at a book, or have been looking at a book, called 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, and its various updated editions. They've been watching films listed in that book and making videos about them. My source material is a little bit different. It's a column by Tom Breihan for avclub.com called A History of Violence. Breihan is starting with 1968 Bullet, starring Steve McQueen, directed by Peter Yates, and is pinpointing and highlighting and writing about what he feels is the most important action movie of each year from that point going forward, and presumably ending this year in 2017. Very eager to find out about what he'll pick for this year. Will it be Baby Driver? Will it be something else? I don't know. But I've incorrectly guessed the last three entries wrong. 2008, 2009, 2010. He just posted his article on his 2009 pick, which is called Universal Soldier Regeneration, a direct-to-video movie, and at the bottom of the article he mentioned his pick for 2010, and I got that one wrong as well. So my percentage has dropped from 64 to 57. I've only gotten 16 out of 28 of the movies right. 28 being like I started guessing in 1983 and started going forward there, but I've gotten, you know, a bunch of them wrong. Anyway, so I wanted to focus, of course, on this week's movie, 2002, which is the Bourne Identity. I just actually posted my video on 2001 yesterday. It was really late, and I forgot to mention the director. Rob Cohen was the director of The Fast and the Furious. He had previously worked for that very studio, Universal, on Dragon, the Bruce Lee story, Dragonheart with Dennis Quaid, and Daylight with Sylvester Stallone. And so when he did The Fast and the Furious, but he left after that. He didn't do any more entries in the series. Instead, other directors took over, and he went on to do Triple X with Vin Diesel the following year, which wasn't nearly as good. And then he, he's made other movies since then, but nothing terribly noteworthy. Anyway, forgot to mention that. The Bourne Identity is a movie that was a big trendsetter. Really sort of helped usher in the sort of cinema verite type of action movie where everything's shot handheld, like it's happening immediately, like a cameraman just happens to be standing by capturing the action. This was and the whole sort of fighting style of Jason Bourne and this sort of aesthetic was adopted, I think, by the James Bond series when Daniel Craig started making James Bond movies. But there's a lot going for this movie aside from just that. First of all, the movie's about a guy with amnesia. I love movies and stories about people with amnesia. They're so interesting. I always wonder what would I do if I woke up and suddenly I'd been missing like the last 10 years or however much of my life, or was missing all of it. What would how would I manage? Probably not that well unless you're independently wealthy, and could just, spend money without having to go to work. You're probably in a lot of trouble if you've got to go back to your job. If you have amnesia, that's a big problem. So Matt Damon's character, I noticed something, and I don't know, it just sort of, he gives the impression of always having his eyebrows up like this bewildered look on his face. Probably not, but maybe it's just the way his face is built. But yeah, he just kind of is just like, what's going on, always just like very, very taken aback by everything that's happening. He wakes up basically on a shipping boat, surrounded by guys who don't speak English as a first language. I just like, what's happened to me? I have 2 bullets in my back. What's going on? And so once he gets to shore, and he finds basically his bank account with all of his materials in it, and finds he has like 6 different passports, each with a different name on it, and there's a gun in there, and there's tons of money from different countries, and all kinds of other stuff. He's just like, what is happening? Who am I? What was I up to before the period of time that I, was found in the sea, found in the middle of the sea with 2 bullets on my back. So he's putting that together. And eventually he runs into a German woman, and I guess this is in Switzerland. he goes to the bank in Switzerland to retrieve all of his wares and just piecing together his identity. And she's having problems with her visa, so he says, look, you know, I've got this money here. I've got 10 grand. I've got 20 grand here in American dollars. And if I'll give it all to you, if you give me a ride to Paris, which I supposedly live. That girl, of course, is Maria, and she's played by Franka Potente, who was in Run Lola Run, which is you know, a movie that got a lot of attention back when it came out in 1999. Anyway, so she's kind of someone who doesn't really have a family. She doesn't have kids or a husband. She's just kind of moving around from place to place a lot, you know, and she's described by one of the government guys looking for Bourne as a gypsy. So she ends up trusting him a lot more than she does the cops. When things start getting in trouble and people start coming after them, trying to kill him, she's, you know, very reluctant to go to the cops, you know, because she doesn't, you know, really trust those guys. She doesn't trust authority figures. She sticks with Bourne despite the fact that the very next thing that happens is they get into this massive car chase in her Mini Cooper, being pursued by, you know, 3 or 4 different cops. And it's a harrowing experience. In fact, the first time she watches him fight a guy basically crashes through the window of his Paris apartment, and they get in this hand-to-hand fight where everything is lightning fast and brutal, and she's standing there going, ah, ah, ow, ow, you know, I mean, she's really empathizing with the injuries that this guy is suffering. And then when it's over, she's just so in shock that the guy, you know, jumps out the window to his death. She just goes catatonic. She just shuts down for a moment there. She's just so, you know, it's kind of unusual to see that happen in an action movie, you know, to have someone just like not be able to deal with what's happening in front of them. But it creates a lot of empathy for them, and they're really good together. Matt Damon and Franka Potente, you know, they bond really well over this sort of, you know, this whole persecuted thing that's happening there. This constant fear of having to avoid any and all authorities, avoid people's eyes, anyone who might be around, and keeping an eye on them. Meanwhile, back in the States, the people that actually sent Bourne on his assassination mission to begin with, they're like, what's going on here? They don't realize, of course, that he has amnesia. They're like, what's he doing? He failed in his mission, and now he's running around all over Europe, you know, we don't get it. So they just send all their assassins after him. Chris Cooper and Gabriel Mann are the 2 main guys, and doing that. And Brian Cox is their boss, and also Clive Owen, before he really became well known, plays one of the assassins. The guy comes after him, the 2 of them. So yeah, I'm not really as big a fan of the style of this movie as a lot of people are. A lot of the cutting is really, really rapid fire. You can't tell what's happening. Just, you know, maybe just to hide the fact that Matt Damon isn't as good as martial arts as we need him to believe he is, as we need to believe that he is. But yeah, it's also this sort of like flash cut style and the transitions between scenes that's a little bit irritating. I actually really like Tony Gilroy's directing on The Bourne Legacy. Not a lot of people really like that movie, but I like the way that movie is put together a lot. Anyway, that doesn't mean Bourne Identity is a bad movie. Far from it. It's really good. I really enjoyed rewatching it. I don't know if you've seen Luke's Marathon yet, but I sort of took the idea for our little sketch that we did from one of the Bourne movies. You know, the phone call where the guy is actually just across the street watching the person who's received the call. And Luke was on board with that, so that was really cool of him to take that idea and run with it. Yeah, so yeah, it's a fun movie. Really enjoyed rewatching it. The next couple of movies are also going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be doing Kill Bill Volume 1 next week, and The Bourne Supremacy the following week. Oh, by the way, the director, I almost forgot to mention the director of this movie is Doug Liman, who prior to this had done Go, which is an indie movie I really liked, an ensemble indie movie, and then he went on to do Mr. and Mrs. Smith in 2005, which I love, another really, really good movie. Not one of Breihan's picks, unfortunately, but I thought it was really, really great. Yeah, Liman, he's done some cool stuff. Some not so cool stuff as well, but that's definitely a plus, a mark in his plus column. So yeah, kind of short and quick, just like the movie. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you'd like to see more of me talking about this stuff, these movies that Breihan has been writing about. The link to the playlist on this whole series is below, as is my Facebook page if you'd like to visit that as well. Appreciate it very much. And of course, I'll see you next week with Quentin Tarantino's wonderful, wonderful Kill Bill Volume 1. I'll see you then. Later.